You know, with a lot of us as fans kind of upset at the fact that, Sonic the Hedgehog, Sonic SatAM, never got a proper third season. Even though we are, thanks to the great, absolute, tremendous efforts of the season animated group themselves that are trying to make that a reality, we have to kind of remind ourselves that Sonic's not the only one that never got a third season. And of course there are many that should have had additional seasons but never did. However, just out of curiosity today, I decided to look up one show that, when I looked it up, I was surprised to find out had the same problem or suffered from the same situation. And that is W.I.T.C.H. W.I.T.C.H, which is short for all the first letters, which is basically the name of the group, but it's comprised of all the first letters of the girls in that group, which is W.I.T.C.H. So anyway, which was sort of a kind of unique, if not a unique popular show. And what I mean by unique is it wasn't as popular as, let's say, Friendship is Magic is right now. As popular as Friendship is Magic is right now, still is, even after the show officially ended. But it still had its fan base, and even after it was done, the fan base grew. The fan base grew, and it grew more and more, especially with newer fans discovering what the show was about, finding out about the characters, hearing what others had to say about it, stuff like that. So, here's the thing, though, and again, I'm doing this on the fly and unscripted, but here's the thing that kind of, like I said, makes it, kind of surprised me a little bit. You see, like I mentioned at the beginning, we kind of complain or still upset at the fact that, or disappointed at the fact that Sonic SatAM never got a third season. Well, the same could be said for W.I.T.C.H. Because there's a lot of people, newer fans, original fans and all that feel the same way. And the reason they feel this way is because of the fact that, just like with SatAM, W.I.T.C.H kind of threw clues and Easter eggs out there at a potential, third season occurring. However, there was criticism that bombarded the second season, and thus, because of that criticism, a third season was taken off the table. But why did this criticism happen? Why did it happen with the second season and not the original first season? Well, the first season, just like with any new show, I should say, was meant to introduce us. It was used and meant to introduce us to the characters, to the main characters. It was meant to introduce us to who the witch girls were and what powers they possessed. And the powers that they possessed were the 5 elements: fire, water, wind, lightning, and earth. Now, it also introduced us to who some of the antagonists were going to be, who some of the anti-heroes and anti-heroines were going to be, as well as introduced us to the potential love interests / boyfriends they were going to have. Now, with that all said, and that basically being why the first season, like a lot of first seasons for new shows, was meant to introduce us to these characters and who they were and what their powers are and all that, why did the second season get the most criticism? Well, I don't really know, because I didn't really watch W.I.T.C.H that much. I mean, I've seen clips here and there, but I don't know what the real reason was. Honestly, I don't. I don't know if maybe it's because the girls have these powers that they learn, maybe because they're in school. I don't know. I don't know what the reason was. However, I do have an opinion from an outsider perspective. You see, one of the things that when you look up on Wikipedia, especially when you look up on the fandom portion of Wikipedia, which is dedicated to fans creating their own Wikipedia pages for certain shows or franchises and all that, which is fandom.com. When you look that up, it does give you a bit of information as to, things that occurred in the second season. For example, in the second season, in one of the episodes, I think it's in the second season, the girls actually change into the elemental forms. Now, I don't know if it's in the second season or if it's at the end of the first season, but it's in one of those perspectives. But the girls, like I said, have the powers of the elements, and one of the things they're able to do in case of dire emergencies and basically use it as a last source is they're able to fully transform themselves into basically the elemental spirits. Basically, by doing this, they give up their humanity. Now, from what I understand, the first time they did this, and it was in an episode called E is for Enemy, the first time they did this, they had a means of returning back to normal, some kind of magical means. However, the second time they did this, that same magical means that was able to restore them the first time was not available anymore. I think it was destroyed or something. So with that resource, that, Deus Ex Machina, if you will, out of the picture, in the final episode, which is called Z is for Zenith, or Z is for Zenith, in that final episode, in the second season, end of the series, the girls once again give up their humanity to become the elemental spirits that they possess the powers of. However, like I said, the means that got them back to normal the first time is not there anymore. But the friends, families, and love interests are given some help by somebody on the outside. I can't think of a name right now. But this individual tells them that they just need to basically come together and remind the girls who they are. Remind them of how much they mean to them, how important they are, how much they care for them, how much they love them, stuff like that. And believe it or not, that works. That ends up working, and the girls are restored to normal. As a matter of fact, the girl that's seemingly the main leader of the group, of the witch group, sorry, my face hit the mic there. But like I said, the girl that's seemingly like the main leader of the witch group, her boyfriend, who's gone through his own issues throughout the series, her boyfriend basically says something along the lines of, that's something that that's one trick or experiment they're not going to try again for quite some time. In other words, what he's saying is the next time they have to deal with something similar like this or a dire circumstance, let's try to figure out another means to defeat them instead of you guys pretty much giving up who you are and thus forgetting who you are. Because one of the things that was kind of interesting in that scene, and you can watch the entire episode on YouTube, it's on YouTube right now, for right now that is when the friends, when all the friends, families, the love interest and all that are trying their best to get the girls to remember who they really are, one of the witch girls asked the question of, what's humanity again? Or what's human again? Something like that. Which kind of tells you that they've given up their humanity so much that while they're holding hands in this circle that they're in, they're forgetting who they are. They're starting to forget who they are until I think it's the main witch leader girl's boyfriend, and I think her family's voices that reach out to her, and she kind of she gets it. She understands and what needs to be done, and thus she tells the other girls to follow her, and they basically are able to arrive back in their bodies, or basically come out of what's essentially a coma. They kind of revert back, like I said. But the question is, was the elemental transformation, and I know I'm taking a while getting to this, and I do apologize, but was the elemental transformation, the girls giving up their humanity and becoming the element spirits, was that one of the reasons that the show got criticized in its second season? Was that the reasoning? Because if it was, why? Is it because pretty much, because these girls, obviously, let's be honest, they're teenagers. They are teenagers, and basically the plot thread, the real sacrificial plot thread here in the series is they would be giving up humanity if they went full elemental form. They would be giving up their humanity. They'd be giving up their future and any potential, they'd be giving up any potential future, I should say, that they would have by becoming these elemental spirits. So was that the reasoning? Was that the reasoning, the elemental transformations? Was it because the girls learned about the fact that they have these magical powers of the elements inside of them while they were in school, and that some members of the school staff or people around them knew about it? What was the reasoning? Or was it because the show didn't do so well and the dolls didn't do so well? Because one thing about Witch, just like with Winx Club and even My Little Pony, is if a toy doesn't sell well, if something doesn't sell well, I should say, merchandise-wise, and it's basically the main merchandise that needs to sell, then whatever represents it in other forms of media, that starts to probably be considered for cancellation. So one has to think that when Witch came out, that the Witch dolls weren't selling as well as let's say Barbie or Winx, and the people behind the series were like, you know what, merchandise ain't moving, cancel the show. You got to wonder that. You got to think maybe that's the reasoning, or at least that's one of the reasons. I look at the fact that that's probably the main reason. That's probably the main reason. The fact that whatever merchandise, toy-wise or whatever that they had, wasn't selling as well as they were hoping for, and thus that's what led them to canceling the show after the second season. The elemental transformation and giving up their humanity while they're still teenagers, kids if you will, that could be looked at as well as a possibility. And there could be many others that I'm not even thinking about. But what do you guys think? What do you think is the main reason that Witch got canceled after its second season? Why the second season was criticized the most? I think, honestly, the top thing I look at is the merchandise wasn't selling. That's what I look at. The other thing that I look at as well as a possibility is the elemental change. Them giving up humanity and becoming these elemental spirits. To some people, that's not a good message to send. Like, oh, I'm willing to give up all this just to become part of this. It's like a cult kind of thing. Maybe that's how they saw it. Oh, the girls are giving up the humanity to become these elemental spirits forever. Similar to maybe someone giving up all the freedom and everything to be part of some freaking cult. And always just be, do what the cult says and do what that says and this says. And maybe that didn't sit well with people. I don't know. Again, we may never, now honestly what I'm trying to say is we may never know. We may never know what the true reasoning was. But I will say this. Just by glimpsing at it a little bit, I honestly think that if a studio was to pick up the Witch franchise today, if Hasbro or Mattel was to pick up the Witch franchise today, then I guarantee you this. Honest to God, if they were to pick it up and get the right people behind it, like let's say a Lauren Faust or Nicole Dubuque or Megan McCarthy or whoever, get the right people behind it creatively, which could do a lot more than it did originally. There's no doubt about it. But again, I'm just saying this from an outside perspective. From an outsider perspective. But what do you guys think? I know some of you out there did watch Witch. Maybe not as much as a lot of people did. But what do you guys think? What do you think is the obvious reason the show got canceled and was criticized mostly in the second season? And do you think possibly, in closing, if it was brought back, maybe the people that got behind shows like, let's say, Friendship is Magic, Superhero Girls currently on Cartoon Network, and some other shows, do you think they could reboot the series into something more? What do you guys think? Let me know down below. Comment if you like. I'd love to hear from each and every one of you on that, and I will talk to y'all later.